Before this workshop begins, I should quickly just talk through this notation because Heather's seen this type of notation before, so we didn't need to address it in detail in this workshop. Essentially, this notation deals with the registers of the clarinet. It doesn't assume any pitches. Pitches are an emergent property of fingerings. I'll come back to fingerings in a moment. The three-line stave indicates the shallow register, the clarinet register, and the altissimo as essentially playing techniques. So by taking the same fingering, you can isolate a pitch from the shallow or a pitch from the clarinet or a pitch from the altissimo using different types of overblowing and underblowing, etc. For more details on this, you can take a look at the Forking Paths videos. If you go to the Forking Paths website and take a look at the playlist of videos in the resources. Where there are lines that connect notes or events across two different registers, that implies a multiphonic or some kind of stable sustaining of both registers together. Black notes are short, white notes are long. Time isn't strongly indicated in this, it's more a sense of gesture, upbeats and downbeats, short things leading to long things, etc. In this second system particularly, you can see that there are half-hole indications and fully open holes as well. This is another manipulation of technique. The X and Y, going back to fingerings, the premise of this piece is that you take any given standard shallow fingering, ideally below A, so one of the low A fingerings, and then X and Y are two versions of that fingering where one hole from the left hand or right hand is open, so a vent, so to speak. So instead of the full fingering with all the fingers down, you have in the X fingering, one hole is additionally opened. In the Y fingering, a different hole is additionally opened. These create microtonal pitch variations and also open up venting possibilities for jumping up into different registers. Again, the second of the Forking Paths videos deals with this, discussing loading and venting. The OR fingering indicates the original root fingering, so whatever that root shallow position was before the vent holes have been opened. The objective with this particular sketch piece was to toy around with this very limited set of fingering possibilities. Previous notation versions have worked with one arbitrary fingering changing to one other arbitrary fingering. This limits it further to a specific type of fingering where there's a single forked opening in the clarinet and the possibilities that offers. Part of the point here is that the notation doesn't specify fingerings so that a player can explore different root fingerings and their various venting possibilities to see how that interacts with the way this notation pushes the breath techniques and the register techniques into something potentially interesting.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, I think it turned out good. So it's good that you did the thing.
Yeah. I've been thinking about this thing for a while. In fact, it was funny when I saw Jose's piece. I was like, "Oh, that's a bit like the thing I'm trying to do." Good. I felt like Jose was on the wavelength.
And I think what's useful about what you've done here is it kind of demonstrates a lot of what I guess we were both talking about in terms of like things being intuitive. because unlike with his score, you know, I can look at this for about 20 seconds and I sort of know what's going on. And part of that's because I've seen your scores before, but it's also just, you know, there's only 3 lines.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's just a bit more flexibility.
The problem I had in thinking about this piece was because the last time I used this notation, it was just basically one fingering, or it might change once or twice. But here I had each note was it's changing fingerings like a normal clarinet piece would do, and the notation wasn't designed for that. So the whole the XY thing probably works okay for a limited number of fingerings, but it would get very difficult as soon as you go over 3 or 4 fingerings.
Yeah, that's true. That's
but
true.
Maybe
keeping track of which one you're on is, yeah, is probably the only kind of like super. I mean, I noticed even just now I had to kind of stay fairly engaged in order to keep track of which one I was on. I mean, in a way, it kind of works if you put one in each hand. Yeah, then it's a little bit easier. I'm not sure about this R symbol because I just sort of always associate that with register key, and it just
very good. I will change that.
I mean, root also makes sense, but it's just sort of,
yeah.
I mean, that's one of those very kind of like things that you would, I mean, it's just sort of a very, I don't feel like I'm being very articulate today. But it's a very kind of clarinet-y association, I guess.
But this is the amount of times I work with young composers where they reinvent the wheel notationally, and I'm like, well, that's a nice symbol, but you realize for every string player that means Bartok fits, and you can't just now use it for something else.
Yeah,
that's not how visual associations work.
Yeah.
No,
maybe instead of X and Y, you should use 2 different emojis.
I thought of that. I was going to use like some crazy non-meaningful symbols, but actually the emojis is better because then you have happy fingering and sad fingering.
Exactly.
Like when I was a teenager first learning guitar, myself and my friends came across some chords that didn't have names for us because we only knew the main root position chords. So we'd call them Harold and Bob.
Exactly.
But it worked because I can still tell you Harold was a C added 9th. I can still remember that Harold was a C added 9th.
Oh, that's so good.
But
I mean, it's just a good like memory trigger, isn't it?
It's a kind of anthropomorphizing going on there.
Yeah.
Although if this breeds a pile of composers making anthropomorphic notation, that would just be weird.
I mean, you know, I mean, I know you know Thierry Tidrow, but he's started to put like little like almost kind of like memes into his score just to sort of like act as reminders of what things should sound like. So when he does spectral multiphonics, he always puts like a little T-Rex in.
It reminds me of those Yanni Christou scores from the 70s with all the like stickmen conductors and things getting very angry, the Grise. Yeah, but you're right. I mean, that raises a useful notational point. What I wanted to do there with the X's and Y's was have an abstract thing that wouldn't make you think of any particular fingering. I almost use a kind of graphic, but even then it would imply that, well, this fingering should be a higher pitch and this should be a lower pitch.
Yeah.
Anything that implies high and low isn't going to work. Anything called A, B, and C isn't going to work. X and Y, alpha and beta.
Yeah.
But alpha and beta then just becomes difficult to work with. But emojis is actually, that's sharp. That's a good one. I wouldn't have thought of that.
The big blacks. Okay, so my other question is, when I move into the clarino range, are we talking about multiphonics here? No,
there's only one place where the 2 ranges are connected to each other. That's explicitly a multiphonic. If there's a hangover from the lower register, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, fine, good.
But
Because
it's
with some of my fingering choices, it was quite difficult to not have hangovers.
and this is one of the things again why I wanted to make. I mean, I could have written this with very specific fingerings, but part of the point was to give someone the opportunity to find potentially interesting things.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like that. And then my other question is, in the second line, when we have the multiphonic on the X guy, and then we go to and then there's a symbol for opening a tone hole, but I'm already on the X fingering.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's just an error.
So it should almost be like those two should be reversed.
Yeah, or the one straight after the multiphonic should in fact be the half hold instead. That's a good point.
Yeah, that's sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to give it a bash?
I do. Which did I pick? Oh yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
You're
I
welcome.
just noticed a fatal error that I haven't switched on keep original sound.
Oh no!
Sound's getting chopped up a little bit.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do it again.
Yeah, so I'm going to stop recording.
Great. Good. Oh.
And you do just two. So at the end of the first line, at the end of the top line, that half whole slide, can you make that as long and slow as possible, like a really gradual, to try and get that little glissandoing that you get when you
Yeah.
finger the half whole?
Is that right? Sorry to doubt you. But so I have the multiphonic at first and then I lose it.
Yeah, I also wasn't sure about this. So when you start moving over to, actually, I'm not sure what's going to happen there.
Oh, yeah.
I think I've done something contradictory. Yeah, go for it.
So I can keep the multiphonic. It just kind of all bends down a bit on that one. Or
yeah, that's what the notation looks like. It says let the top one fade away. Actually, what I probably should have done was put a fade into the top one so you can see that happening.
Yeah, that would make that more clear, actually.
Yeah, but at the same time, the point of the half holding is to vent to allow the higher note to come out. So I've actually written a totally contradictory thing there. I've asked for a vent that would let the high out, and then I've also said don't let the high keep going.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I
But
think for
then,
the go on.
uh, then, then it should almost have, when it goes when it goes to the half holding, there should almost be some suggestion of the altissimo coming into play.
I had the altissimo clarino thing worked pretty well the last time I used it, but in this case it gets fuzzy.
Mm.
What fingers are you using?
I was using this one for X
Uh-huh.
and this one for Y.
Okay. And on a low F.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. Because sometimes when I half hold it, sometimes I get things that are kind of at the top end of the clarinet register, and sometimes I get stuff that jumps up into the altissimo, and they're kind of both
Yeah.
there. So I was hoping here that this would push it into the lower end of that. So whatever the lower end of your vent is. Sorry, you said right two, and what was one your left hand?
Left 3.
Okay. Yeah. So if I half hole left 3, then I can get either something that's top end of the clarinet or something up in the altissimo. And I imagine you could probably get higher stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
so actually notationally that's good. That's just
I guess the tricky thing about um those half hole things is sometimes they really like distort things, and then sometimes you just get like it's actually really subtle.
yeah. That's kind of what I'm hoping that the 3-line stave notation allows us to do. So instead of saying just do a half hole, it says do a half hole, but aim for the clarinet. Try and push it into the clarinet, or try and push it into the altissimo.
Right. Right. I think then the half holing and the stave notation somehow need to be like more integrated, because um I mean, is that why they're up there on the line with the altissimo?
No, that's nothing to do with that. That's above the stave, just.
Because if I don't, I mean, I don't know how it is for you, but if I don't combine, especially if I don't combine like the change in fingering with some kind of embouchure thing, I'm just getting at least on these fingerings, I'm just getting a downward pitch change, bend.
You mean yeah, but that's what the notation should be. Like if you go down, it's easier to see, I think, on the lower stave.
Yeah,
So on the one, two, the third one in the
yeah,
so that begins with the Y and then the X. So there you've got the first one. It gives you the shallow note of that fingering, and then
yeah.
you half hole it into the higher register. But then you take off the half hole, put the full hole out, and you'll get some sort of little pitch change, but you should still be in that register
Right.
in
But
theory.
but hang on. I see.
If I yeah,
Right.
so you're still in that register, but the difference between the half hole and the fully open hole gives you that tiny pitch difference. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't give a difference at all.
Okay, so the problem is, I mean, it's not a problem, but with my choice of Y fingering, yeah, that does work. As soon as I half hole, it starts to overblow very easily. It's very hard to repress it. But
Yeah.
with the X one, I'm using this one. It doesn't.
So I found with the right hand ones, it didn't want to do the fifth partial overblow. I had to really push it up further into the altissimo. So maybe that's, I thought that was just me not being able to control it, but maybe those right hand ones. What happens, let's say hypothetically for that right hand one that was telling you to go into the altissimo rather than the clarinet, like you really, really pushed up.
Oh, I mean, I can push up anyway.
Yeah.
But the point is, with the right one, it just does it.
Yeah.
I don't have to push anything.
With the left one, you mean?
Sorry,
with the
yes,
right
I'm
one.
mixing
Yeah.
up left and right. um,
Yeah, I found exactly the same thing. That the ones in the left hand are really amenable to being register keys. They're very happy
yeah.
to leap up, whereas the right hand ones take a lot more work.
I mean, it makes sense because the higher up you go, it's just, I guess there's a kind of confusion as a result of like, so then how do you feel about the right hand one not going up? Then you want me to actually put it up there.
Yeah,
Then I feel like the notation somehow doesn't work because it's like on one hand it's just telling me to do a thing
yeah.
with my finger, and on the other hand you're asking me to do a thing with my finger and my face. But they're the same thing. You know what I mean?
The finger,
Because the finger with the if I'm in the right hand, the finger doesn't facilitate anything other than
right?
pitch change. It doesn't
Gotcha.
facilitate the overblowing. Whereas in the right hand, the the fingering change like immediately.
Yeah. I know what you mean. The fingering change immediately does something.
What
I,
what a
I think
pickle!
I think I like the ambiguity of. Oh, here's an interesting question that I wouldn't have known the answer to. When you see a halfle, is that a definite place for you, or for each one do you have to kind of find what that means? Is it very context sensitive?
Um, I guess somewhere in between because it's not like that. You know, I guess it would be different if I had like spent years playing the recorder before I took up the clarinet or something. Then I would probably like. But yeah, I guess it depends, doesn't it? And it would change a lot. Like if I was doing it on this one, it's that one's really easy, isn't it? Because it's
Yeah.
just like you can really feel where that space is. And then this one, you have this interesting problem of this X, like that's already going all the way down. So like, is a half hole just doing this, or is it like this? And then that's more like a three-quarter hole.
Yeah. This is
I
the
know.
same problem we had with Ed's piece, that it's not always clear on each fingering what half-hole actually means. And I guess in normal clarinet playing, when you see half-holes, it's usually to get something specific. I want to get a G quarter sharp, you use a
Yeah,
half-hole for that. Or I want to stabilize this high pitch, use a half-hole. Whereas these don't have
exactly.
targets. These are more exploratory.
No.
So
I mean, but in a way, like that's where the strength of Ed's piece is because he only does this transitional half-holing thing. So it's really a kind of exploration where you start that way and then you move into this kind of like dooey 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 thing. Um, which you know what, maybe in a way it's like that second grouping from the Y on the second line. It's, you know what, I think that line needs to be longer. I think you should have like, three times as many changes on it because then that just gives you a bit more time to actually like explore that space.
right, yeah. For a
Because
second
then,
there, when you were talking about it, I was sorry. Carry on.
sorry, I was just gonna, you know, because I think just doing it a couple of times, I'm already, I mean, as the player, I'm already moving on to the next thing. And
Mm.
as the listener, it's not enough time to kind of see like, oh, something strange is happening here.
I was thinking of it probably slower than that, so that
Sorry. Yeah,
as
of course
in,
you were.
yeah, because me.
And I played it slower than that earlier as well, but
But it's also the difference of thinking about it as being. I completely know what you mean about saying that the fingering is telling you one thing and the mouth is telling you another in some ways, and it seems like they're one is redundant. I think what it's trying to do is, if it's done slowly, to be exploratory in such a way that says, okay, when I just push it open with the full finger, this happens. But if I introduce the half hole, at what point can I get something that does something different?
right, okay. Mm,
I really
yeah,
like that. I really like that kind of just moving between two quite close spaces.
yeah, yeah, me too.
And I think, to be honest, half of this, everything behind this just came down to the fascination that I got when I figured out that all we were doing was overblowing fundamentals, was overblowing that fundamental, and you're just getting these tiny differences between what's a real harmonic of that low F and what's a kind of twisted harmonic of that low F. And
Yeah,
actually, and if you take away the vent entirely, you can still just overblow that top A because you can, because that's what something
yeah,
you
yeah,
can do.
yeah. I think it's so interesting how when I put that finger down, how like constricted it feels. Like
Mm,
that hole is in that place and it's that size for a reason.
yeah. I was when I messed around with different ways I could finger this, I found all sorts of places where where it's just so resistant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tried left one. Left one is super resistant.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, to
Oh,
get that one I really have to like engage the diaphragm a lot.
play me left one and then left two, because I get a weird thing. It might be my crappy clarinet. When I do them, left two is sharper than left one, which is just weird. That
Oh.
shouldn't happen. It's pretty subtle here. I've had it worse on other times.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think it's because one's a smaller hole than the other. It's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah. Fascinating.
Yeah,
Clarinet's weird. That's the lesson for today's conference.
I love that. Clarinets be weird.
Anyway, okay.
Yes,
Now that
sorry.
we're
Okay,
diverting.
changes I made. Second phrase.
Yeah.
So once you jump up to push it up into the clarinet, then to try and get the multiphonic at the end.
Yeah. So we've got a multiphonic now. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
The phrase after that, you might have to take faster than it looks like, only because I've conjoined it with the phrase after. So I'm interested to see what
Okay.
happens there, because the last, I haven't slurred the very last event onto the previous one. So you
Oh
have a change of
yeah.
fingering. And because of the nature of these change of fingerings, it's a one-off, one-on job, which is, well, obviously you're better at it than I am, but when I do it, it's clunky.
Okay.
Put it.
Yeah. Nice.
Um, I've remembered why the half hole thing at the end of that line happens. The whole point of the exercise there was to keep the low note going, so that when you bring in the half hole, you get the. So you
Okay, that
get,
was okay, fine, perfect.
that was
Good.
the point. I knew there was
That
a
was the
point. I
point.
just totally forgot what it was.
I mean, that's good that that's a point because that's what's going to happen.
I mean, it's nice that I understand how it works. It's just not nice that I forget what I intended to do.
Nice.
Only other thing I changed was, as you pointed out earlier, that second last thing that happens where it needs. I've put, so you've got the blah blah blah. the second big group of notes on the
Oh,
bottom
yeah.
line. Yeah, so I made
I
it
see.
the half whole straight after the multiphonic. So that should actually cancel out the multiphonic anyways. As soon as you half hold it, that should automatically push it up.
Nice.
Although
Okay,
it's the
I give
X
it a
one,
go.
so it mightn't. So it's going to be the right hand one, so it may not. You might have to give it a push. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, go for it. Give it a bash through.
Okay. Sorry. Nice.
Nice. You know what? Isn't that way tonal?
Yeah.
This is also an artifact of my shitty clarinet and my small reed, that yours is much closer to the harmonic series. Mine tends to be extra wonky,
Oh.
which is not in any way a problem. That's an interesting artifact of working with a crappy instrument.
Yeah, I thought so at the end of the first line, I suddenly struggled to find the harmonic. I mean, it was still there, sort of. It was just like, is it gonna come out?
What you mean where you're doing the gliss, the half whole gliss?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. No, just to overblow on my X.
Right.
Was a bit sticky.
It is. The right hand ones are sticky, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sort of disorienting. I really like that bit when you go in the middle of that line, when you go from the Y to the straight to the X. Because it's not just like ma-da, it's like ah, 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 ah.
That's the thing I really like about it, though. It's like the resistance changes. If I could analogize this to like playing a guitar or playing a stringed instrument, it would be like suddenly the string you're playing just suddenly changed thickness under your fingertips. It's just suddenly you have to change what it is you're doing.
Yeah.
I could imagine versions of not this particular piece, or that this piece is doing one thing quite singularly, but that change of resistance could allow interesting things to pop out, or could give you options for things to do.
Yeah, definitely. Also, it's a good it's sort of a nice kind of training to sort of learn not to panic when that resistance comes in, like to just kind of like sit on it and try to find where it is and let that be part of the thing, rather than like the multiphonic perfectionist in me that's like, oh, this harmonic isn't sounding clearly and beautifully.
Yep, I gotcha. Can you do me a favor? Can you do that transition a couple of times just to see what different places it can go to?
Yeah, sure. I mean, obviously there's a big difference between that and if I kind of chuck up the I mean, you didn't put any dynamics, but I just automatically played this quietly because that's,
That was a safe assumption.
yeah. But if you did something like, I mean, which I think is quite interesting because because you still have like, I mean, in fact, the stability of the first fingering versus the second versus the instability of the second one is even more clear. Then I think, like, even if you're tuned in and watching us now, you can, I mean, you can tell that it doesn't work. So first fingering, second. When I'm trying to make the same kind of sound,
Yeah, nope.
nope.
The resistance is totally different.
Exactly.
Oh, the microphone blew out completely there, but I think what that did was just amplify the existing distortion
Proves my
effect.
point even more.
Exactly. Can you, with the X one particularly, can you push it higher? Can you aim for higher harmonics? Because what I found was that I couldn't get the fifth partial much, but the seventh partial really wanted to jump out.
Right. Okay, I'm going to blow out the microphone again. Last one.
What if I do that? Yeah, but when I do that right hand too, I can't really get.
You mean that one?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? It's sort of, when I play it, it feels like I'm sort of faking it. Like I'm almost kind of doing a glissando between things because I know where it should be, but it doesn't want to sit there. So I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I'm just faking it, really. Because it wants to just drop down like that. And I can kind of force it, but I can see why you can't.
Yeah, exactly. And it also means that for me, when I do that, I have a real strong sense that the instrument wants to go there, and I'm just going to either have to let it or not let it, rather than being able to choose it so clearly.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. With the very last thing that happens,
Yeah.
you got the X, and then going back down to the unvented your bottom F3 fingering.
Yeah.
That's essentially half holing out a harmonic and then just staying on that harmonic, but dropping down onto the root fingering. Actually, you know what?
Yeah,
Could that be
Sorry?
done as a multiphonic, like with the full F fingering, but also
Yeah, definitely.
overblowing that A?
Definitely. I think I may decide that I don't have this opinion in a second, but I think I'm actually trying very hard to make sure it doesn't become a multiphonic.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Nice one too.
Yeah, that's pretty all right. Changing score slightly. Okay, cool. I think that's worked nicely. what I was going to do with this as something that will go into more of an extended piece is then to take, because at the moment this is basically just one fundamental fingering and two ventings of that, but it opens up possibilities for other ventings. Some of the ventings are very similar to each other, some aren't, but also changing that fundamental at some point. So a longer version of this might look into then mixing around different fundamentals.
Well, that's the thing, because you could maintain the same venting and change the fundamental.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah, it would be fun.
It'll happen. Okay, awesome. Thank you.